losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Not a lot. Feeling refreshed, feeling ready to go. I was saying to you earlier that I'm pumped about this episode because I feel like there's a lot of stories inside the cage and outside the cage that we can talk about this week. A lot of stuff coming out of UFC 256 for sure.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And the year is coming to a close, right? We were just talking. I think this coming weekend's card is the last big card of the year as far as like Bellator, UFC, PFL. Oh, wait, no PFL. Yeah, at least UFC and Bellator closing out a crazy year. But before that, we do have some stuff to talk about. Let's open the show with Yoel Romero. We kind of joked on the best bets episode last week that Bellator said they weren't interested in Yoel Romero, blah, 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 blah. And I think we were all kind of skeptical about that. And look what happened. I think it was announced today that Yoel Romero has signed with Bellator. So apparently they were a little bit interested. And it looks like he's going to be fighting at 205. I really like the signing. Bellator, we always talk about it. Bellator is a good landing spot for a lot of these guys, especially like the older veterans. Yeah, I mean, Yoel Romero 205. I kind of wanted to see the Yoel Romero Gegard Mousasi fight, but again, that 205-pound division is bonkers right now. They have a really good 205-pound division. Are you happy with the signing for Bellator, and do you like 205 for him?
Yeah, I'm happy with it. And like you said, we just got done joking about how perfect Yoel Romero would be in Bellator. So I'm a fan of the signing. And yeah, I do like him at 205. Especially considering his weight troubles, making 185 recently. But also, like, I wouldn't rule out a Gegard Mousasi fight. Gegard has fought as high as heavyweight, I believe, before, and has a number of fights at light heavyweight. And like Bellator has shown us with Pitbull and with Douglas Lima that they're not afraid to ask their champions or high level guys from other divisions to hop around from division to division. So I wouldn't rule out a Gegard Mousasi Yoel Romero fight, which is a fantastic fight for them. But I think you hit the nail on the head talking about Bellator's light heavyweight division, man. They got Corey Anderson, Nemkov, Bader, even like a guy like Christian Edwards, who's still really young in his career, but has some hype behind him. There's Rumble Johnson. Yes. Who we just talked about on Friday, him signing with Bellator. So, honestly, man, I mean, yeah, Bellator's top 5 at 205 is probably, I don't know if I want to say they are better fighters overall, but in my mind, that's a more exciting group, especially with John Jones leaving the light heavyweight division in the UFC.
Yeah, I would say Bellator's division is on par with the UFC's. And again, you get a couple of these aging veterans and big names to pair with, Vadim Nemkov, who I think is one of the best light heavyweights in the world. It's definitely exciting, man. I see a lot of people calling for Yoel Romero versus Anthony Johnson right off the rip. They're not going to do that. As much as we'd all love to see it, right? They're not going to put their two big, signings against one another. I'd imagine they both get, warm-up-ish, tune-up-ish fights, especially for Johnson, because Anthony Johnson hasn't fought since, 2017, 2018? His last fight was against DC, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And Yoel, this is going to be his first fight up at 205. I'm interested to see how he looks at 205. Yeah, I really like the signing, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've seen a lot of people talk about the Rumble Johnson fight as a potential, and like obviously that would be fun. We'd be super jacked for that.
Absolutely.
But if you look at how Bellator typically treats these kind of big UFC like signees, I mean, they typically give them, like you said, kind of an ease into Bellator fight. Like we just saw Corey Anderson fight Melvin Manhoef. I mean, that could be a potential opponent for Yoel Romero out the gate. Like, I expect them to try to give him a pretty winnable fight up front, and then move him in there against the Nemkovs, the Baders, and the Corey Andersons of the world.
Yeah, because I would imagine, I think Corey Anderson is probably going to get the next shot at the title. So, you slide Rumble and Yoel in with, two random guys, see where they go from there. But yeah, I mean, they're doing it big. I think Yoel is a good addition for them. One other name that, I was thinking, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Bellator tried to sign and make this fight with Yoel was Anderson Silva. I mean, he's still kind of hanging out there. You have no idea what he's going to do. Wouldn't put it past Bellator to get an Anderson Silva in there, and I mean, they could even do like an Anderson Silva Yoel Romero fight. I have no idea what they're gonna do.
Anything in this way, Bellator is more fun than the UFC. Whereas the UFC, like, we kind of expect them, even though they don't always do it, we expect them to kind of fight best guys against the best guys, and you can kind of plan out each division in terms of this guy beat him, so he should fight next. Bellator is kind of all over the place in terms of their matchmaking, and often it results in these kind of fun options. I feel like we've talked about this before, but I feel like Bellator not traveling around to put on shows in front of relatively small crowds, like typically they're going to Thackerville, Oklahoma, and they're putting on shows in Connecticut, which they still are. But I feel like Bellator lowering their operation costs significantly by not putting on shows in all over the country has maybe freed up some of their capital to make these signings. I could be just totally full of shit there, but it really feels like they are becoming a more attractive option for guys that want more money, and that might be because they have more money to give out now.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good take. And Yoel Romero and Anthony Johnson both get paid pretty damn well. And again, I think that's why the UFC decided to part ways with them, right? Anthony Johnson is coming off a couple-year layoff. He makes a lot of money. Yoel Romero is 44 years old, coming off a couple losses. Yeah, I think that is a definite good assumption, especially going into 2021 if they got the pockets deep enough. I think we're going to see a lot more of this, especially with the UFC and Dana White claiming that there's going to be more cuts. You look at a couple guys that fought this weekend, and we'll get into it a little bit more later, but a guy like Junior Dos Santos, Jacare Souza, guys like that, if they get cut and they're hanging out and they still want to fight, I think Bellator is a good landing spot for them.
Yeah. And not to get too off topic, but I feel like the UFC losing some of its like global dominance in the MMA world could be a pretty big story in 2021, especially, and again, I don't want to get too far off topic, but especially with Dana White's best friend out of the Oval Office, fewer favors are going to come their way. It really feels like Bellator, PFL, maybe they're coming back. Also, Kayla Harrison fights this weekend while I'm talking about that again. Other organizations are really kind of, I feel like, probably going to step up to the plate in 2021. And like you said, especially if the UFC is actually going to cut like 60 fighters from their roster, there's going to be a lot of free agent talent out there.
I love to see it, man. I'm not a big fan of the monopoly, where the UFC is just dominating. I like the other organizations stepping up, having great divisions. It's fun, right? When different organizations have great fighters and great matchups, it's just more to watch. Different production styles, different build-up styles. So, yeah, I love to see it. And I hope Bellator, PFL, ONE FC, everyone in between keeps on trucking along, gets some of these fighters, and, the UFC is not so monopolized.
100% agree.
So if we stick with Bellator 254 happened on Thursday night. We do have a new flyweight champion, Juliana Velasquez beats Ilima-Lei Macfarlane pretty handily. I mean, it kind of tightened up in the fourth and fifth round, but Velasquez just really stuck to a good game plan. The fight wasn't all that exciting, but she got the job done. She becomes the new 125-pound champ, only the second flyweight champ, right? Ilima-Lei Macfarlane has held the belt since its inauguration, so that was some pretty big news. The second big topic from Bellator 254 is Magomed Magomedov wins in the co-main event against Mateus Matos, completely dominates. Dude, he looks like an absolute stud. He's a beast. If you were in the know, you kind of knew what you were getting coming into this fight, but man, not only Bellator and the UFC, but you look across bantamweight as a whole in MMA, and that division is just on fire. There's so many damn good fighters. And Magomedov is another just stud in that division. Juan Archuleta has a lot of dudes climbing up the ranks and right on his toes.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that division in Bellator, and obviously always the UFC, but especially in Bellator to really pop off in 2021. I mean, I was super excited about Archuleta against Patchy Mix just, a couple
Yeah.
months ago. Like that was a gangbusters, really exciting fight for people that are in the know. And I think, yeah, Magomedov, we're going to continue to see some more well-deserved hype around him.
Yeah, agreed. Hobson Gracie gets knocked out in the opener by a Connecticut guy, Billy Goff. Shout out to Connecticut and Billy Goff.
Nice.
Shift gears to UFC 256 now. Man, I can't gush enough about this card. It looked great on paper, right? And dude, it was honestly one of the best pay-per-views I think of the year. That might be recency bias, but top to bottom, I mean, the event starts off with a crazy comeback from Chase Hooper. And then all the way through the top, there's finishes, there's crazy finishes, surprising endings, and then it culminates with this absolute barn burner of a main event between Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. And again, I feel like we've been saying this since last pay-per-view, but look at this, the damn flyweights, man. Coming back, the division was a year ago, we had no idea what was going to happen with it. Fighters were getting cut, and now look at it. Deiveson Figueiredo headlines 2 pay-per-views in a row, and this fight was just absolute freaking madness. Props to both of those guys for putting it on the line for 5 straight rounds. And this was one of those fights, and the only other fight I can really say I was kind of like not happy with a draw, because most of the times when you get a draw, it's like, it feels so like fuck. But this one, like, I know it was because of the nut shot in, what was that, the third round, I believe, right?
Yep.
That kind of like swayed the judges. But at the end of the day, like, I was okay with the draw. Like, it felt good. And like I said, the only other fight that I ever felt like that was for Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot. At the end of that fight, I was like, yeah, that's a draw. Absolutely, I'm fine with it. What did you think about the scorecards and obviously the fight overall?
I thought the scorecards were fine. I actually scored it a draw watching it the next day. But I got no problem with that. I thought if you take away the point deduction, that Figueiredo wins.
Yep.
So I'm totally fine with a draw scorecard, because that means Figueiredo keeps his belt, which I think he kind of deserves at that point. And yeah, a draw, like, we're going to talk, I'm sure, about like how much that raised Brandon Moreno's stock.
Absolutely.
I actually think it raised Figueiredo's stock, not necessarily because it was a draw, but it raised Figueiredo's stock because we saw him for 5 rounds. We saw how exciting he was. And we got to listen to the commentary team, I think in particular, Daniel Cormier, really sing his praises about how fucking exciting Figueiredo is. Like, you can't, it's hard to put into words how exciting he is. So we got 25 minutes of him like marching forward, taking shots from Moreno, and seeming totally unaffected by whatever was coming back his way. And yeah, I think you started that whole thing by saying like flyweights are back. Like, I think a lot of that is thanks to Figueiredo and just how fucking exciting he is. Finishing Benavidez twice. Just blowing through a very legitimate contender in Alex Perez, and then now putting on an absolute barn burner to end the year. Like, yeah, this was a draw. He didn't get a clean win. So I think for a lot of people, that's going to disqualify Deiveson Figueiredo as their fighter of the year. But if you look in terms of like impact on the sport, he's really kind of carried that division and made it much more exciting.
Yeah.
If Moreno had won, for sure, like, flyweight is still exciting, right? I'm not saying that's not the case, but the fact that Figueiredo has really kind of turned the division around and made it like, he's not going to do as many buys as Jorge Masvidal or Conor McGregor, any of those guys, for sure. But if you are watching the sport, if you're a hardcore fan, Figueiredo feels like must-see TV every single time out now.
And he answered a lot of questions for me too. Yep. Like, I had wondered, like, because he is not a small dude for that weight class. He packs a lot of muscle. Dude doesn't have an ounce of fat on him. I was wondering what's what is Deiveson Figueiredo going to look like in the 4th and 5th round? And he was gassed, he was hurt, and he never stopped moving. He never stopped throwing. He never stopped coming forward. Yeah, dude, I was super impressed with him. Brandon Moreno's chin is just unreal. And can we give some props to Brandon freaking Moreno? The last pick on the Ultimate Fighter, cut from the UFC, he comes back and he puts on just an absolute masterclass performance against just a scary, scary dude in Deiveson Figueiredo. Some of the shots he took in this fight and some of the shots he honestly gave back to Figueiredo, I cannot believe those guys were still standing at the end of the fight. I mean, there was fun grappling exchanges. I mean, he was able to lift Figueiredo off the canvas a couple times and put him on his ass, put him on his back. Dude, these guys just went to war. And I think it really brings up two questions for the of the year discussions, right? One, which you kind of just alluded to, if Deiveson Figueiredo wins this fight cleanly, he is no question the fighter of the year, right? But I think it comes down to either Deiveson Figueiredo and Kevin Holland. And we can jump a little bit to Kevin Holland right now. And the other question it begs is, was that the fight of the year? But let's address the first topic very briefly. If you look at the two resumes, right? Kevin Holland goes 5-0 this year. Deiveson Figueiredo goes what? 3-0-1, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Deiveson Figueiredo misses weight and he has a draw, but it's 3 wins, 3 stoppages, a title defense, and a title victory. Kevin Holland not fighting the top competition until he fights Jacare, but impressive nonetheless. Like I said, I don't think it necessarily the draw disqualifies Figueiredo from the conversation, but it makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of depends on what's important to you when you're ranking your fighter of the year. Because if we're just looking at resume, I think that's Figueiredo takes it. I mean, the Benavidez stoppages, those cannot be. I know Benavidez is at the end of his career, but that's a guy who has been a long time staple of 125 and even 135. So putting away Benavidez twice, I think is huge. Like I said, Perez was a super legit contender. Moreno, and I'm not even done talking about Brandon Moreno because I loved that fight and I love that. I love him even more after that fight. But yeah, I mean, if we're just talking strength of schedule, I think Figueiredo has it, even with the draw and even with one fewer fight. But if you want to talk about like making a splash and like kind of announcing himself as a contender in a really quick, short period of time, Kevin Holland takes the cake, but we will definitely be talking about this in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'm not ready to make my final pick yet, because obviously we still have one more card to go, right? Some crazy things can happen. I don't think anyone's going to take over these two guys in a Fighter of the Year conversation, but Kevin Holland opens the year stopping Anthony Hernandez, stops Joaquin Buckley, beats Darren Stewart by decision, stops Charlie Ontiveros, and then stops Jacare Souza. So he's got 4 stoppages in a decision. And again, the Jacare Souza finish is insane in its own right? Like, he goes to the ground with Jacare and he finishes him from the bottom. He clips him with just this crazy shot. And then, like, I've never seen a finish like that. Jacare is kind of like slumped over on his heels where Kevin Holland's just putting him out. Super impressive stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think knockout of the year is pretty well stitched up this year. Like, I think we're all in agreement that Joaquin Buckley has that. But if we're talking honorable mentions, that's it. Also, like, I cannot stop. I thought Jacare was going to win this fight, but I love Kevin Holland. Love him even more now. Like, him having a full-on conversation with Jacare in there. I know that's going to rub some people the wrong way. And then after the fight, when he's like strutting around, just talking all kinds of shit. And I hate that the UFC commentators talk over that. Like, I want to hear what Kevin Holland is saying when he's walking around the cage. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that like hate that. They think he's being cocky. They think he's being too brash. But I love it when a fighter is like that. I love it when a fighter embraces their personality. And Kevin Holland has that in spades to pair with, obviously, a super exciting fighting style.
I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but let's stay on Kevin Holland and we'll work our way back up to the top and then down the card. I really liked his Khamzat Chimaev call out. I really did. And I feel bad because I want that fight now. I do. I think those are two of the hottest guys, right? And sometimes fights like that make sense. Like this guy wants to fight Chimaev. Chimaev's that dude. Sign me up. But the flip side is, man, poor fucking Leon Edwards gets screwed again. If they were to do that, right? Because I mean, Leon Edwards had a really tough 2020, right? Leon Edwards was supposed to be the dude that beat or at least fought Tyron Woodley. You know, he goes from being ranked third to getting pulled out of the fight to now he's back in the rankings. But man, and if you look, that UFC 250, what is this? 257 card, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, has an open spot on the main card. They said it during the broadcast. Khamzat Chimaev, Kevin Holland. I don't care if they do it at 170, 185. Dude, sign me the fuck up for that card. What do you think? Would you rather see Chimaev, Holland, or do you think we don't screw Leon Edwards again?
I mean, if we're being honest, Leon Edwards already got screwed by being booked against Khamzat Chimaev to begin with, right? That's a fight that is way below Leon Edwards to begin with. It might be the best option for him because nobody's really excited to see Leon Edwards fight, but I mean, I don't know. Like I'm all about, I would, if you're asking who I'd rather see Chimaev against Kevin Holland, because it's more exciting, and the Chimaev Leon Edwards fight rankings wise makes like no fucking sense. But I do feel, there's always a part of me that feels a little bad for Leon Edwards, but he was already getting screwed anyway. Like, I'm sure he thinks he was going to beat Chimaev pretty easily. And that was going to be like a good payday and, a way to get his name back out there. So I'm sure he'd be bummed if that fight doesn't happen. But if we're being honest, like Leon Edwards was already getting a fucking raw deal to begin with. I'd still like to see Leon Edwards against a top 10 welterweight instead of somebody like Chimaev. And Holland against Chimaev just like makes all the sense in the world. And clearly they're not afraid about like throwing Chimaev in there against somebody he could lose to. And same with Kevin Holland. They put Kevin Holland in there as a small underdog against Jacare. So they're clearly not afraid to throw either one of those guys in there against people they could lose to potentially.
I like those two dudes too because they don't care. 185, 170, short notice, full camp. They don't give a shit, man.
Yeah, people are gonna know about fucking Kevin Holland if it's my dying breath, man. This guy is so exciting and just fights all the time.
Yeah. So if we jump back to the top, the second question it begs is that fight absolutely amazing, right? Is that the fight of the year? Because for me, it probably comes down to either that fight or Zhang Weili versus Joanna. And again, I kind of want to watch them, back to back just to see. But I still kind of lean Zhang Weili versus Joanna. And again, that was the last fight with the crowd. Again, same thing, title on the line. And the one defining factor for me, at least right now, is Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno kind of slowed down in the fifth round, right? I mean, they were still going at it, but it wasn't as crazy. Whereas Joanna and Zhang Weili were just bell to bell, just nonstop action. Again, I'm not going to ask for your official thing, but where do you lean as of right now between the two fights?
For me, as of right now, I also put Weili Joanna above this. This fight, Moreno Figueiredo, that is, had everything in terms of drama. It was for a title, and it was close. It was competitive. It had both guys getting hurt, right? Both guys landed big shots on each other. And it was also like really high level skill, right? Sometimes people talk about their fight of the year and they're naming some barn burner that happened in LFA or something. And it's like, yeah, that was fun. But here we're seeing just absolutely pure elite MMA. Again, for me, I put Weili Joanna above it. I think there was a little bit more drama in that fight, especially because like Joanna coming in as a former champion made it seem a little bit more important.
Yeah.
And also Joanna being like the queen of that division for so long. And yeah, like Weili Joanna, I feel like in the final 5 minutes took off. Like round 5 of that fight was maybe round of the year. Whereas like you said, this dropped off a little bit, but To be clear, I'm not complaining about Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson
No.
Figueiredo one fucking bit. This fight delivered from the jump. Like right away, I was like blown out of my seat by how good Brandon Moreno's left hand looked, throwing a step in jab, throwing a jab on the counter, throwing hooks off the left hand, throwing counter left hooks. My biggest takeaway from this fight was like inspirational from both guys because we saw
Absolutely.
Figueiredo battle back like a champion that he is, take some shots and continue to move forward. And yeah, Moreno is like the ultimate guy who's not super athletic, but gritty as hell and believes in the technique that he's doing. And man, I loved this fight. I thought Moreno was going to get taken down whenever Figueiredo wanted to, and his takedown defense held up. We even saw Moreno like do those body lock takedowns. Like I cannot sing enough praises to both these guys, to be honest, but especially Moreno. Like I came out of this fight inspired by Moreno's performance. Like clearly that like broken arm, right? He had his left hand going into the fifth round had that huge fucking hematoma, and it looked like it was just snapped. Man, what a fight! This fight had everything, and I think outside of Weili Joanna, which in my mind is still number one. I mean, we're only looking at a handful of other fights that can compare to this, like maybe Poirier Hooker,
Yep.
Or Gaethje Ferguson might be up there for some people, but for me, this is at least top three, if not like the second best fight of the year.
I agree. I think they run it back too right away. You got to draw. Fight was amazing. Run it back early 2021.
I say run it back. Hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, post pandemic will be like spring or summer 2021. Put it in Mexico City.
Yeah,
why not, man?
Goddamn.
Brandon Moreno would bring down the fucking house. I know that's putting the champion in away territory, but sometimes those are the breaks. And the UFC, I was watching Moreno's career or like UFC fights leading up to this fight. And I can't remember who he fought in Mexico City. Was it Askarov maybe? I can't remember. But that crowd was just so off the charts crazy that it makes me want, and after this performance, you know Mexican fans want to see more of him. I would love to see Brandon Moreno in a main event in Mexico City.
Yeah, sign me the fuck up, man.
Yeah.
Run it back. Yeah, Mexico City would be great. That'd be awesome. These two dudes deserve every heaps of praise they're getting thrown on them, and the flyweight division is not back. The flyweight division has always been here. It's always been exciting. These guys are all fucking badass. They're so skilled. Time to give the damn division the respect it deserves, right? Stop hating on it. Stop trying to get rid of it. The flyweights are awesome.
They fucking saved the last two pay-per-views of the year with good fights. Like the 255 got me excited because I saw, oh shit, Figueiredo is really good. And then 256 obviously delivered with all the action.
Yeah, agreed. Co-main event. Oh boy. Charles Oliveira is a bad motherfucker. That's all I gotta say, man. Dude. We've been singing Charles Oliveira's praises for forever now, right? Everyone's always talking Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, all these names, and they're always leaving out Charles Oliveira. And we've always said that's the dude. He is in that top tier, right? He's won 7 fights in a row. He finally gets the big step up, and dude, I was incredibly impressed with Charles Oliveira. And one thing I want to say, I don't think this is a Tony Ferguson falling off at all. I just think Charles Oliveira was better than Tony Ferguson that night. I mean, Charles Oliveira, one thing I was super impressed with, well, 2 things, right? His movement and striking in the pocket is just so good. The way he moves his head off the center line, he creates angles, and the way he stands in the pocket and not just backs up straight back and forth, right? He moves, he angles off, he throws hard, and his wrestling looked so damn good in this fight. The way he was able to blend the striking to the takedowns, we knew his grappling was just out of this world. But now, like, the complete game of Charles Oliveira, I mean, everyone now is like, holy crap, this guy. He's been there, man. Charles Oliveira has been this dude. And again, like, people always want to point to like, yeah, he might not be the most like strong mental, guy mentally, right? But I think he's past that. He is far past that. He gets his big win, and dude, Charles Oliveira is a dangerous dude for any of these guys in the top 5, the top 3. We're like, okay, we'll talk the fight first, right? Give me your takes on the fight, and then we'll talk about where we match him up with.
I mean, you nailed it. He's a fucking monster. I think Tony did look a little flat. I'm gonna say that, but he's still Tony fucking Ferguson, right? He's still a very good wrestler that Oliveira made look like a complete fucking beginner in terms of wrestling. When Oliveira went out there and like bounced him off the cage with a double leg and slammed him, I was like, wow. His takedowns are better than I expected here.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's way past the questions about his, mental strength. We saw that he got hit hard against Kevin Lee. And then here, I also think a big takeaway here was that there was zero cardio issues for Oliveira here. And I think most of us went into that fight saying, Oliveira has a pretty good chance in 3 rounds, but if this were a 5-round fight, Tony Ferguson is going to win. Boy, if that was a 5-round fight, he might have finished Tony Ferguson.
Might have finished him.
Like, yeah, I love everything about his ground game, his guard passing, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Defensively, Oliveira is not like perfect on the feet. He still gets hit, but his striking seems to be modified perfectly for MMA, and that he's not like dipping his head crazy amounts to avoid punches. Yes, he's going to take some, but he's moving just out of the way. And importantly, he's not moving straight back when guys attack him. He's not going to let himself be put on the cage against bigger wrestlers like a Michael Chandler. He's not going to let somebody like Conor McGregor back him up against the fence and kind of unload with kicks and punches. Absolutely in love with what Charles Oliveira is doing right now. And yeah, I mean, I picked him, I can't remember, several episodes ago, I said I thought he was going to be the lightweight champion at the end of 2021. And the only reason I said that is because just looking at those rankings, I think he beats everybody else in those rankings. And if you look at those top 5, I mean, Michael Chandler is a wrestler, but anymore, he's probably not going to grapple heavy. You look at the lightweight rankings if you take out Khabib, who seems pretty well retired, we're looking at basically other strikers that I think Oliveira has a massive grappling advantage over, like Poirier, Gaethje. We just saw Gaethje's grappling tested and fail. McGregor, obviously, Oliveira is a way better grappler than him. And even guys like Dan Hooker, going down further, Paul Felder, like Oliveira holds huge grappling edges over these guys.
Well, the thing is, I don't think you can even look at a Dan Hooker and a Paul Felder anymore with Charles Oliveira, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be like one of these 4 guys, right? It's got to be Gaethje, Chandler, or maybe even the winner of Conor and Poirier. He's established himself, right? Like, where do you put him? Because my thing is, like, you can't keep Michael Chandler on ice for too much longer. You spent the money on him. You hyped him up. Like, he's got to get a fight. I don't know if Do Bronx is going to be ready for a fight of that magnitude soon, so they might do Chandler versus Gaethje. But dude, I mean, if they were to put Charles Oliveira in with the winner of Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, I would not be upset. And like you said, man, I really like his chances in that fight.
Yeah, just stylistically. And I think he's earned that opportunity. And I think it's safe to assume we're kind of dancing around it, but I think it's still safe to assume that Poirier against McGregor will be for, at the very least, an interim title.
I would expect
I think it's silly to act like Khabib is coming back. So I think it'll probably be for the title, but I think Oliveira has earned that shot. However, I think they gotta give Michael Chandler a high level fight. And we were talking about, before this past fight had been announced, we thought Michael Chandler against Tony Ferguson made a lot of sense. I say, why not give the guy who just beat Tony Ferguson to Michael Chandler?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a win-win. That's a big fight for both guys to introduce themselves to a broader audience. And whoever wins that fight, whether it be Chandler or Oliveira, I think has deserved a title shot.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, man. Again, you look at that whole weight class, and it's just stud after stud after stud after stud. Two names I'll give you for Tony Ferguson. One probably less likely than the other. The first name I'll give you, Islam Makhachev. We always wanted to see the Khabib Tony fight. We never got it. How about Islam Makhachev? Khabib is dubbing, and AKA is dubbing Islam as the next Khabib. Sign me up. We never got to see Khabib versus Islam, but they're similar in styles. That's Khabib's dude. Who knows? Maybe he beats Islam Makhachev and Khabib wants to avenge his buddy. The other name I'll give you, just for sheer fun and why the fuck not, Nate Diaz. Diaz needs a fight. That fight would be bonkers. Sign me up.
I actually hadn't even thought about Nate Diaz. Yes, sign me up all the way for it, especially because it feels like Ferguson's probably not going to fight for a title again.
No, he's not.
Well,
I can't say never, but at this point.
And that feels like a fight Nate Diaz would take. It would meet his like bizarre like ethos of like, I only fight gangsters or whatever. I only fight real guys. Like if he's got to think Tony Ferguson's a real one.
That's a dude. That's the dude.
Yeah. I mean, I like both those options even better than, I mean, I was thinking more like Dan Hooker or even RDA, or I guess they've already fought, but somebody like that, those two names that you just gave me, I think are more exciting than the ones I had in mind.
I know they're trying to line up Makhachev with Drew Dober, but yeah, who knows, man? I mean, he could beat Drew Dober, and then later in 2021, you get a Tony Ferguson Islam Makhachev fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say too. I feel like guys like Drew Dober or Gregor Gillespie, Beneil Dariush, they probably saw that fight and they are dying to fight Tony Ferguson.
I agree.
Now. Because Ferguson did look a little flat, I thought, and I don't want to take anything away from Oliveira, but I think guys see Oliveira just 30-26ing him and think, oh, I can do that too. This is my chance to make a big jump in the rankings.
Oliveira is a bad motherfucker, though, man.
Yeah.
Dude's a stud. Moving down on the card, Mackenzie Dern beats Verna Jandiroba. I kind of had it the other way, man. I thought Jandiroba won the fight. It was super close, though. Mackenzie Dern's striking looked actually a lot better in this fight than previous fights. I think she's got, like 3 or 4 wins in a row, something like that.
Since losing to Hebus, I think that was maybe her 3rd win in a row. I gotta check.
Yeah, 3rd win in a row. So, I mean, I still think she's a little bit green. I don't know if she's ready for the top of that division, but she's probably going to get a decent size step up after this.
Yeah, I was thinking somebody like Michelle Watterson would make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest takeaway here is, yes, she looked improved on the feet, still very green. But I really liked that she is now working with Jason Perillo, who was saying things that I feel like were super obvious before, but her other coaches weren't saying.
Yeah.
So you heard Perillo constantly say, hey, keep your eyes open, like look up, which we all knew Mackenzie Dern previously would like put her head down, close her eyes, and just swing.
Yeah.
And her coaches were like saying shit, oh, stay behind the jab, do all this. No, she needs somebody to fucking tell her, hey, just keep your eyes up. And then after she broke her nose, you could tell like Perillo in between rounds was like, hey, you're okay. You're totally fine. And I feel like in the past, her coaches had maybe indulged Mackenzie Dern and maybe being a bit of an emotional fighter. And you had Perillo like redirecting her in between rounds and just be like, hey, focus, you're fine. So I think she's only going to get better, still pretty green, but somebody like Michelle Watterson would certainly test out her improvements, especially
or like an Angela Hill, maybe.
Bingo.
Someone like that, yeah.
So, who obviously Dern has paths to victory on the mat against basically anybody in the division, but just more experienced fighters that know how to deal with specialists like her.
Right. Open up the main card. Cyril Gane defeats Junior Dos Santos. I've been super high on Cyril Gane. This is a big step up for him, and he passed with flying colors. And Dos Santos looked pretty damn good in this fight. Dos Santos came to win. He was swinging bombs, but Gane was just so far ahead on the feet. And, he's shown that he's got a decent little ground game. He's a monster on the feet. I'm ready to see Gane take another big step up. I mean, I forget what Dos Santos was ranked coming into this fight. I'm pretty sure he was ranked pretty damn high still, but, he's at the tail end of his career, right? And again, we talked about it at the top of the show, guys like Junior Dos Santos, who's now on a 4-fight streak where he's been stopped in every fight, a Jacare. Who knows how much longer they're going to be hanging around the UFC, but for Gane, I would love to see him step up to maybe like a Jairzinho Rosenstruck, someone like that. I think it'd be an absolute banger.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to push him. I'm looking at these rankings now. JDS was 7. I don't think the rankings have updated yet. Um, Anybody above that would make sense. However, it's kind of crowded at the top of that division. So if they want to give him like a stay busy fight, guys like Blagoy Ivanov, Augusto
Yeah.
Sakai, those would work. But yeah, I mean, keep it going. I mean, that was only his 7th pro fight. Like, no rush. And there's, if he keeps moving up in the rankings, he's pretty going to be fighting for a title very soon.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, dude, the prelims even had some fun stuff. Give me your favorite storyline coming out of the prelims.
Let me look here. I mean, oh God, there's a lot to choose from Cub Swanson making everybody happy, to Chase Hooper with the heel hook. I think for me, it's how good Fiziev looked against Renato Moicano, even getting hurt. And I actually thought Moicano looked pretty fucking good, especially at lightweight here. He was super disciplined and sticking his jab, but Fiziev, that combination, I believe it was like a left uppercut to the body, a right overhand, and then a left hook. Whoo boy. That was pretty. I think it's on to really great things for Fiziev. Obviously, he's going to run into some grapplers at some point that are going to really test him. But for me, it's just how exciting that guy is. But yeah, like I said, plenty of stories on the undercard.
Yeah, Fiziev is a good one. The guy looks really good. I got to go with my boy Cub Swanson, man. Turning back the clock, gets a big win. Coming off ACL surgery, too. He messed up his knee pretty good, and I think this was a good fight for him. A fun fight, and yeah, he turns back the clock. You'd love to see it. And yeah, Chase Hooper, man, he was in some shit, man. He had to really bite down, and he gets the heel hook finish late in the 3rd round. And again, like you said, this literally, like, the card started off wild and ended wild. UFC 256 was a great success.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best pay-per-views of the year. I mean, I have to research that and go back and look a bit, but maybe recency bias, but damn, this card was good.
I mean, for a hardcore fan, this was it, because it wasn't super high on name value, but plenty of violence. Dude, even like Tisha Torres beat the shit out of somebody for 5 minutes. That was fun to watch. Who's, like a lot of times we kind of think of Tisha Torres fights as like tit for tat little kickboxing matches. She fucking put it on Sam Hughes. Like, there was not really a low point of this card.
No, I agree, man. So we move ahead to this weekend, last card of the year, headlined by Stephen Thompson taking on Geoff Neal. I really like this fight. I think Geoff Neal is getting a well-deserved step up, and he's getting a step up to a guy that is one of the best in the division. They both haven't fought in over a year, so that'll be interesting. And if you look at Stephen Thompson's resume, right, he had the two fights with Tyron Woodley, and then he's got 2 other losses in there. But if you look at those losses, the Darren Till loss was super damn close. You could have easily given that to Stephen Thompson. Yeah. And the Anthony Pettis loss, I mean, he was dominating that fight all the way up until the, he gets clipped with that goddamn crazy
like jumping off the cage,
or whatever. Yeah. And then he comes back and beats Vicente Luque. So I don't think there's too much wear and tear on Stephen Thompson I don't think Stephen Thompson is on the decline. Let me say that. But Geoff Neal is certainly very on the rise. So I really, really like this matchmaking.
I do really like this matchmaking as well. And Geoff Neal is a guy that I think the company can really get behind because of the way he fights. Super kind of intimidating, aggressive. I'm glad you brought up Stephen Thompson's kind of run here, because I think it's easy for us to think of him as kind of a has-been at this point, or somebody who's really on the decline. I actually like Stephen Thompson in this fight. Not to take anything away from Geoff Neal, but I think Stephen Thompson is by far the most nuanced striker that Geoff Neal has fought. And Neal is really good. He's super disciplined. I love his patience. Like, he almost exclusively throws straight punches, which is like, honestly, sometimes all you need in MMA is just throwing inside of guys that throw hooks. He's obviously like crazy powerful, but he doesn't do a ton. He throws a really good straight right hand that I think throws a ton of people off, but he doesn't really ever go to the body. He hardly ever throws kicks. He will clinch against the cage, but it seems to be something he only does when he gets a little flustered or at the beginning of the fight when he's maybe a little nervous and he's just like, oh, let me relax and clinch. And not that Stephen Thompson is a grappler himself, but I think Thompson just has a wider skill set, particularly on the feet. I think we're going to see Thompson picking apart Geoff Neal with kicks to the leg and to the body, and then eventually to the head. And I think that diversity of striking is going to overcome Geoff Neal's like raw power and speed, which is immense. For sure, Geoff Neal can shut out Stephen Thompson's lights, but I just like Thompson's his that kind of like long pants kickboxing diversity of striking skill set to kind of confuse Geoff Neal.
Yeah, I like Stephen Thompson in this fight too. I think I think people are kind of underestimating a little bit, thinking he's on that decline. But again, if you look at the recency of the fights he's been in them, he's like you said. I thought he won the Darren Till fight. He was winning the Anthony Pettis fight. He beat Vicente Luque, who I think we're both like love that guy, man. That's a tough fucking out. So yeah, I favor Stephen Thompson ever so slightly. Kind of like you said, I think he'll be able to pick his shots, navigate the power, and again, Geoff Neal has immense power, but Stephen Thompson is just so well seasoned. He's been in there with the best. I like it to be a fun chess match for 5 rounds with Stephen Thompson coming out on top.
Yeah, I see this happening almost. Obviously, the actual dynamics are going to be different, but in terms of like pacing, I see it as a slightly more exciting Stephen Thompson versus Darren Till fight. I think it's going to be a bit of a chess match. I think there will be more action because Geoff Neal is a little bit more aggressive.
Yes.
But I think for 5 rounds, Geoff Neal has never been in a 5-round fight, and Stephen Thompson really at this point in his career knows how to work a 5-round fight. So yeah, I like Thompson by decision. Hopefully it's more exciting than the fight I just mentioned, because Till Thompson was not super exciting, but
no, it wasn't.
I think we're going to see, as long as it's happening at long range, I think that's a fight that favors Stephen Thompson. And I think a lot of this fight's going to happen at long range. Even with the small cage, he moves so fucking well. And yeah, I see Geoff Neal having a hard time kind of like making the fight happen in his preferred range.
Yeah, I agree with that. Co-main event is a banger. Honestly, two bantamweight fights on this card that are great. But the co-main event, Jose Aldo taking on Marlon Vera. And I'm surprised that Marlon Vera, like, coming off the Sean O'Malley win, there was a lot of beef. Like, people seem generally excited about Marlon Vera coming off that. He's got the look, but it's like it dropped off, right? There was no more, like, push for Marlon Vera. Like, that surprised me. I thought coming off the Sean O'Malley fight, like, they'd really get behind this dude and push him, especially going into a Jose Aldo fight. But it's kind of, like, fallen under the radar. I like this fight because I don't like Jose Aldo. For me, although he's lost both of his bantamweight fights, his bantamweight runs kind of exceeded my expectations, right? Like, I thought he was going to have a lot of trouble making bantamweight. I thought he was going to look honestly kind of terrible, but he looked pretty damn good against Petr Yan. He looked good against Marlon Moraes. You know, maybe third time's a charm, and finally Father Time's going to catch up with him and really slow him down. But I like this fight.
Yeah. I think it's a real test to let us know where Jose Aldo is, because like you said, he did totally outperform at least our expectations. We didn't even know if he'd be able to make 135 and be alive. So he's already outperformed our expectations. This will tell us a lot where he's at, like physically and mentally, because 2 years ago we would never expect Jose Aldo to be even in a close fight with Marlon Vera. Not to disrespect Cheeto here, but just Aldo's a way better athlete, and I think more skilled. So stylistically, this should be a fight that Aldo wins, but we'll see. I mean, Cheeto Vera oftentimes kind of needs to have an advantage on the ground to supplement his striking, and I don't think he's going to have that here, or he's not even really going to be able to take Aldo down.
Yeah.
But he fights at a high pace. He's super aggressive, and he's pretty fucking fearless. So if Aldo is at that point in his career where he's fallen off, this is the guy that's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cheeto Vera here. I think, like I said, aside from that, what's that fight where I thought he should have won? It's like two
Song
fights
Yadong,
ago.
maybe.
Yeah, Song Yadong. Yeah, I thought he should have won that. And outside of that, he's on like a 5 or 6. If he won that, he's on what, a 7-fight win streak with a win over Sean O'Malley, which I thought he looked very good in. Yeah, I'm gonna go Cheeto Vera here. I think he's gonna be able to do enough on the feet and maybe take Aldo down. I have no idea. Aldo's always been super tough to take down, but I like it. It's going to be a good fight. I'm going Cheeto Vera, though.
Yeah, I guess gun to my head, I'm going to pick Aldo just because I think Cheeto will try to kick with Aldo, and then maybe we'll see some of Aldo's like return leg kicks or something. But who knows? It's hard for me to get a read on this fight in any way.
It's tough.
Really hard.
It's tough, man. The other bantamweight matchup, Marlon Moraes taking on Rob Font. Love this goddamn fight. Absolutely love it. Marlon Moraes is an absolute Terminator, but he's coming off the loss to Corey Sandhagen, taking on Rob Font. Big step up for Rob Font. The striking is going to be great, man. Rob is a super good boxer, long and lanky. Moraes with the powerful kicks. This is another tough one to get a read on. I feel like Rob Font is ready for the step up, but Marlon Moraes is a super big step up. Although he lost that last fight, I still think Moraes is a huge player in this division. Absolutely love this one too.
Yeah, love it. I actually favor Rob Font to pick up the small upset here. Moraes, I don't want to say he's fallen off a cliff because he still looks pretty physically good, but I think a bit of his mystique has worn off. The loss to Cejudo, the loss to Sandhagen, even the win over Aldo, I think a lot of people, Rob Font included, are thinking if we can take Moraes into deep waters or even just the second round, we can win. So I see Rob Font, who's pretty fucking slick on the feet, maybe being awfully defensive for the first 5 to 7 minutes, and then trying to put it on Marlon Moraes in the second half of the fight. So yeah, I like Font here to edge a decision, but I always get excited when Marlon Moraes fights. Like, it wasn't that long ago that he had those 3 first-round knockouts, or finishes, I should say. So, like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing. I love Rob Font. I don't want to see him get knocked out, but I also wouldn't be like super sad if Marlon Moraes does some like spin kick knockout shit.
I'm kind of with this one. I really like both guys. It's a tough one, man. I kind of lean Rob Font as well, but would not be surprised either way.
He just puts together combinations so well, and I know he can do that in the second and third round, which is kind of a problem for Moraes, guys that can put volume on him late.
Michelle Pereira, Chaos Williams. Chaos is what is going to ensue. Who stops who, right? I feel like this is going to be a stoppage. Michelle Pereira is out of control. That guy's wild. Chaos Williams looks really freaking good. I would lean Williams just because he looks like he's a bit more polished. He's got insane power, but Michelle Pereira is the guy's wild. That should be a good one.
He's going to flip off a cage. That's all I care about.
Yeah, exactly, right. Marcin Tybura, Greg Hardy is on this card. Anthony Pettis taking a big step back, taking on Alex Moreno is on this card. You got Bilal Muhammad, Deron Wynn, Rick Glenn's back. Sir Eubanks, Pandy Kianza. This is actually a pretty damn good card.
We'll see. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but right now, if Tapology is correct and updated, there are 15 fights scheduled on this card, and I think they're doing that because they assume at least 2, maybe 3 of them are going to fall out by Saturday. You brought it up a couple weeks ago that eventually the UFC is going to have to deal with like a big time main event fighter falling out due to COVID. And how many did we lose last week? 3, 2? I can't even remember.
I want to say 3 because I think ended up being like an 8-fight card or something.
Yeah. So they are running the risk here. I mean, if Stephen Thompson or Geoff Neal fall out, like, it's not the end of the world because this is not a huge fight, but if Curtis Blades could test positive for COVID, why can't Conor McGregor? You know what I mean? Like,
I know
shit's gonna happen. It's gonna hurt him one day. I believe it.
Yeah, I believe it too. It's kind of scary. Canelo Alvarez fights this weekend too, taking on Callum Smith on DAZN. DAZN's still on life support, but they got Canelo versus Smith. this weekend.
And on boxing, if anybody has not checked out our interview with Jeremy Harridges, where we talked about everything boxing, like check that out. I was very happy with that conversation.
Yeah.
It gets us up to speed pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So check that out this weekend. A lot of fights going on. I don't think I got anything else, man. I think we kind of covered it all.
Yeah, I think those are the big stories.
Yeah. So as always, we appreciate you all listening. Please check us out. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. We're everywhere. Hit that subscribe button, please. Write us a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain.